Hey guys, welcome to episode 5, the fifth installment of the story of Sandy Point, a production of the Sandy Point Heritage Society, a non-profit self-help organization aimed at researching, documenting, and preserving the history/story of Sandy Point for posterity. Today we feature the Poxon Hospital, first 100 years, from 1892 to 1992. I'll be reading from a document presented to me by Mr. Milton Smith. As you can see, the print is a bit faded, so I'll have some difficulty doing the presentation. Bear with me. The Poxon Hospital, however, today is presented as a medical center. It no longer has a maternity ward. It means that Sandy Pointers would have to travel to JNF in Bass State to birth their children. So can it be said that Sandy Pointers are no longer born in Sandy Point, but in Bass State? But that's a different story for a different time. We read, the hospital was called Poxon, after Mr. Edward Poxon, the then owner of Bourke's Estate. He stipulated in his will that the institution be used as a maternity and emergency hospital and should never be out of operation for more than 24 hours, or else it be returned to his living heirs. Mr. Poxon was motivated to donate the hospital after one day overhearing the groans of a pregnant woman in labor. He was apparently moved by the fact that the woman was about to give birth in a cane field. At the time, too, there was only one hospital on the island, the Cunningham Hospital, which was 11 miles away. The Poxon Hospital replaced the old Sandy Point Hospital at Downing Street. A lot of folks didn't know that. It was officially opened on March 31st, 1892. 9 months later, on December 16th, Mr. Edward Poxon entered his rest and was buried at Middle Island Churchyard. A two-story structure was divided into 4 wards, namely Manchester with 16 beds, Cooper with 10 beds, Dorcas, and it's spelled Dorcas, with 12 beds, and Magdalene with 12, making a total of 50 beds. The then medical officer, Dr. Ari Semper, supervised the hospital until the 1st July 1893, when Dr. J. Foreman was appointed medical superintendent of Poxon Hospital. The complete staff in that day comprised of 4 nurses and 4 non-nurses. During 1892, the number of patients admitted were 209, 106 males, 103 females. In an interview with a present inpatient, 90-year-old Mr. Azariah Keynes, he recalls being admitted by Dr. Foreman after being brought to Poxon Hospital in a mule cart from Prophet Village, where he lived. That was probably the ambulance for the day. And if anyone knows where Prophet Village would have been located, we'd be glad to hear from you. He further related being admitted into a ward with 7 other children, all suffering from tobo, yars, and chigger, a common disease of the day. 3 meals were offered daily, and the menu reads, for breakfast at 9 a.m., you got 5 ounces of bread and 2 ounces of sugar. I guess you have to have your lime to make a little swank. Dinner was at 3 p.m., and they served 5 ounces of bread, 12 ounces of potato, and 6 ounces of beef, and 1 ounce of barley. Supper would be at 6 p.m., and they serve the same thing as breakfast, 5 ounces of bread and 2 ounces of sugar. Several additions and renovations have been made to the Poxon Hospital over the years, and it now has a bed capacity of 38. We went from 50. We talk about improvement, but we don't do 38. That will be explained later on. Among the recent renovations are extensions of the wards, relocation of the casualty department, and the addition of 10 beds. The final addition to make Poxton complete is a well-laid-out kitchen at the base of the delivery room. This most recent project was undertaken by the Civil Affairs Brigade of Pennsylvania, USA, along with Ralph Laplace, a local contractor. The hospital is divided into now 3 wards. Obstetrics with 9 beds, females with 15 beds, and male ward with 14 beds. Total of 38 beds. Children are treated in the female and male ward at designated areas of the units. There is an outpatient unit where outpatients and casualties are treated. A small delivery room, doctor's office, and the clinic area are also included in the layout. Other attached areas which enhance the functioning of Poxton Hospital are the dispensary, the kitchen, the laundry, and mortuary. The Poxton Hospital serves the population from Challengers Village in the east to Date Bay in the west. The institution caters to medical and some surgical conditions, administers first aid to casualties, cares for maternal patients, and lately minor surgeries have been performed under local anesthesia. The staff comprises of a resident medical doctor, who is also the district medical officer of District 4 and medical superintendent of the Hanson Home. One departmental sister, who is head nurse and supervises nursing care and deputizes for the head nurse. 3 nurses aides, 6 staff nurses, 3 orderlies, 1 clerk, and 5 non-establishment workers. 3 ward maids, 1 laundress, and 1 cook. Nurses aides and orderlies work on a 3-shift system, while all other workers work during the daytime for 8 hours. Over the years, Poxton has been improved with modern facilities and equipment. Staff no longer have to travel to JNF Hospital in Bastia to sterilize dressings and equipment since an autoclave was installed at the hospital. Hand washing has been reduced considerably with the aid of a washing machine. We no longer have to light lamps when there is an electricity failure because there is a standby generator, which is now manually engaged but will soon become automatically engaged. Patients' care has also been modernized by the addition of an electrocardiogram, a nebulizer, which allow a senior and heart condition cases to be more speedily and efficiently assessed and treated. The wards and office are kept cooler with the installation of side fans and the additional standing fan. These are also used to reduce the elevated temperatures of patients. Interesting. Over a period of 5 years, the average number of patients admitted in a year is 295.8. Deaths, 5. Birth, 63.8. The next paragraph should give some insight as to how we went from a 50-bed hospital to a 38-bed hospital, and we call that an improvement. Let's see what we have here. There was a destructive change during 1928, and a Sandy Pointer, Miss E. Laplace, recalls being hospitalized there during that period when a natural disaster took its toll on Poxton Hospital, necessitating several changes. The top portion that housed the crèche was destroyed, leaving the bottom portion, and the building that was divided into 3 wards: emergency, male, and female. As would be expected, the children from the crèche were sent home just before the disaster struck. I think they're referring to Hurricane Janet of 1928 that messed up the whole of the Caribbean and really did some damage to Miami. There were only 2 patients left. Miss Laplace was taken to the head nurse's home, Mrs. Williams, and the male patient was taken to the orderly's lodge. The doctor's office was also damaged. In 1928, the hospital consisted of an emergency male and female wards. Number of patients remaining, this was after the hurricane hit. Male 4, female 5. Number admitted during that year, male 28, female 28, and they go into more statistics, so we skip that and go to the most salient point. In September 1922, Miss Virginia Busby was appointed nurse, and Miss M.A. Williams was appointed in October 17, 1922, as head nurse, midwife, clerk, and dispenser of the hospital. Mr. W. Stead was appointed orderly three years later in 1926. Other orderlies who worked here from time to time includes Mr. J. Smith, Mr. Herman Warner, I think I remember him, Mr. Sidney Gishard, and Mr. James Herbert. In 1932, another nurse, Miss J. Carey, was appointed to supplement the work of head nurse, Miss M.A. Williams. The then medical superintendent, the Poxon, Dr. Costello, he was appointed district medical officer and medical superintendent of the Leper Home. Another inpatient, Mr. Leopold Gums, recalls having fallen from a donkey in 1931. He sustained a fractured left arm and was admitted. His arm was put into a plaster of Paris cast by Dr. Costello. The sewage system. The Poxon Hospital had a pale and dry earth system which was removed daily. There were no sinks or drains. The water supply was unlimited. There were bathtubs in the wards and a shower in the yard. Dr. Semper, Foreman, and Costello were not the only persons who performed wonders for the patients in and out of the hospital. There were other doctors who should be remembered. These include Dr. Burton, Dr. Charles, Dr. Patrick Solomon, Dr. McLean, Dr. Griffith, Dr. Sebastian, Dr. E.O. Jacobs, and Dr. Macmillan Hodge, who left in August of 1990. Dr. Macmillan Hodge will be the father of Dr. Mark Hodge, the oncologist who operates now at the Sands Complex. We know Mark, we grew up with him, etc. Dr. Pocklington, Dr. Ross, Dr. Stevens also did short-term service at the hospital. Major and minor surgeries were performed by two well-known doctors, Dr. H.E. Kelsick and Dr. C.W. Sebastian. That would be the late former Governor General. We know him as Dr. Sebi, very popular gentleman. So that he had a stint at Sandy Point. There is surgeries such as homeography, appendectomy, laparotomy, I may have mispronounced that, and dilation and curettage, while general anesthetics were given by Mr. B. Hartman and head nurse Miss F. Freeman. Another well-noted doctor and ophthalmologist, Dr. E. O. Jacobs, also did eye surgery. Of course, we remember Dr. Jacobs, his children, Dr. Ian Jacobs, who was a pediatrician. He also passed. But we remember Dr. Jacobs and his family. He also did cataract extraction, iridectomy, and selectomy, and general surgeries such as amputations and repairs of the hydrocele. Patients came from islands such as St. Martin, St. Bart's, Montserrat, and Nevis, not to mention Anguilla. We come now to Poxon, 1960-1968. Postmortems were performed at the hospital. One should not forget the devoted nurses who assisted the doctors mentioned. Some of these include head nurses over the years: Miss N.A. Williams, Miss F. Freeman, Miss France Thomason. Would that be Dr. Thomason, who we used to call a brother nurse? Miss Blondinia Hanley, Miss Muriel Edwards acted as for a short period. Other dedicated nurses to be remembered are Miss Margaret O'Brien, Miss I. Ince, Mrs. A. Paul Harmony, Mrs. A. Evelyn, Miss V. McIntosh Henry. We all, of course, remember Nurse Henry. She's the mother of Miss Carleen Henry Morton and Jacinth Henry Morton. Miss Ruth Lance Hodge, Miss Brandy, Miss I. Eddie Wyatt, Miss H. Campbell, Mrs. Brown, Mrs. C. Dason Williams, Mrs. O. Rollins, Mrs. M. Bowie, Mrs. B. Johnson, Mrs. C. Foy, Miss Vera Powell, Miss Anita Powell, Miss Veronica Saunders Chapman. There were also quite a number of nurses' aides who enjoyed working here in the good old days, such as Mrs. Dorothy Peters Smith, Miss Annette Connor, remember Miss Connor, Miss Pearline Morgan, that would be Nurse Morgan, who hailed from Half-Tree, Miss Nydia Isaac, Miss Loretta Warner, Miss Maureen Richardson Woodley, Miss Petra Paul, and Miss Lovina Woodley Charles. We know her as Pretty from the Woodley family on Mount Tidal. Okay. Above account describes the many ways in which Parkson has changed throughout the years. General facilities and amenities have vastly improved. The amount of surgery performed here has drastically diminished as physicians in St. Kitts and Nevis have become more specialized. Many improvements remains to be made. Continued community support for this hospital will ensure that Parkson will continue to improve as it enters the 21st century. This, guys, is a document that was given to me by Mr. Milton Smith, and his wife's name is also mentioned, Miss Dorothy Peter Smith. I recall her also working there and in other institutions as a nurse. Stay tuned for upcoming episodes.